With the recent announcement of the remake or reimagining of Dead Space being developed by EA Motive, I thought it would be an interesting idea to go through some things I personally would like to see in the remake. I would be going through aspects within the game, to name a few: character development, gameplay, and different game modes, and a couple of other things. If the developers are going to reimagine the game, this could be a good opportunity to reintroduce weapons from its prequel, Dead Space Extraction, such as the Arc Welder or the Divert, perhaps even going so far as to bring the Rivet and Rock Saw into the game as well. They could also bring a certain weapon from Downfall into the continuity as well, that being the Plasma Saw. The reason I would like to see weapons from Extraction return for this remake is due to the question: if the colonists had access to these tools, why didn't the Ishimura teams have access to them as well? How about a weapon constructed from items in Chapter 6 to create an acid spray weapon that would show off Isaac's ingenuity and creativity? I would like it if the game would be lore abiding for the weapons, and give the game a chance to have more replayability than the first did. Perhaps even going deeper into the lore of the weapons would even be a step in the right direction. Maybe even bringing in new weapons that would make more sense to be on board a mining ship and not a military ship, as I don't think many of the miners or security teams would be fashioning seeker rifles and detonators. I mean, the pulse rifle was one thing, but sniper rifles and trip mines wouldn't be needed for a planet cracking operation, or at least a retrieval mission. The upgrades from Dead Space could be a little better, as in Dead Space 2 we had a slight improvement with certain weapons, giving them a special attribute, which would give the weapon a different effect. For example, the contact beam upon using the secondary fire would not only push back and damage nearby enemies, but would also coat them in stasis, slowing all necromorphs hit by the blast. An improvement like this would also help to show off Isaac's talents in engineering, as if he himself had implemented the changes to the weapon with his skills as an engineer. I would like to see this being brought to the first game, with other special upgrades being added to the other weapons. That would seem to be a natural progression for that type of weapon. Like the line gun special could be upgrading the fire rate due to its slow firing rate, with the special upgrade giving it the kick it needs. With the cosmetic side of things, I wasn't a big fan of the DLC from Dead Space, even though some of the suits looked to be either a prototype or a variant of other suits from the future games, like the astronaut suit and the advanced suit. The suit should complement the time frame and the world around it, like in the first game. Its setting is in a mining ship, thus we got mining suits. However, maybe other suits like those worn by the colonists, or suits that the Ishimura crew would have worn that can be found throughout the ship, like in Chapter 3, could be some good DLC for the game, or something to give us for a series of different pre-order packages. The first game would just hand us some different colour variations of the final suit, which looks good, but I would like something more to wear while running down the scourge of Aegis 7. Rather than retconning the lore, improve upon it. I would like a better explanation on how the marker from Dead Space ties into the events of Dead Space 2, why the marker wants to help our protagonists rather than destroy them, why it seems to be counterproductive to its end goal of convergence. In the interview I watched from GameSpot, the developers told us that they would be adding in some additional content in certain chapters to give us more of an explanation into Nicole's demise. I like these ideas, but I would like it to stay in tone with Nicole's history on the ship, what transpires within the comics. Lore building should be present, not lore replacing. I would very much like to see the world of Dead Space, the Ishimura and the colony be explored to the fullest capacity without losing interest of the player, as when I played the SBV3 mod for Halo Combat Evolved, I thought the extended missions were cool at first, but after a while I just got bored and was praying that the end of the mission was coming sooner rather than later. There would need to be a balance to keep piquing player interest along the way, perhaps adding in some other hallucinations to further pull the player through, or something else to pique their interest in the side story, not just locking us in endless corridors with the condemned. You could even add some psychological horror into the game too to keep us on edge, and perhaps give newcomers hints into Nicole being alive, only for them to find out that the game was messing with them the whole time. The developers have also told us about references to organizations within the Dead Space universe being present within the game, like EarthGov for instance, which is something I admire. However, you could take a step further into this. For example, with the events of Dead Space Extraction, McNeil, after sabotaging the ADS cannons, gets attacked and pinned by a large necromorph, resulting in him having to cut off his own hand. Perhaps a visual reference could be added in here. When Isaac visits the area, we could see a hand floating nearby, which could also be seen to pay homage to the original box art of the game. Maybe add the ending message of Elisa Vincent from Downfall at some point with a degraded and distorted filter. I would love to see a video log or an audio log of her explaining the infestation to the player. Or another idea for optional missions, there could be an instance in Chapter 12 where we find ourselves near the comm needle and hear a faint scream coming from what appears to be a middle-aged man, only to find at the end of the mission Newman's corpse with an audio log, or maybe a breadcrumb trail of audio and video logs leading up to Newman's fate, giving us an inside look into his torment of failing to save those around him. Within Dead Space 2, the multiplayer was very lackluster and wasn't very popular due to poor gameplay design. The progression within it would give certain upgrades to certain levels like durability or damage or new tools, giving the higher leveled players an unfair advantage against new players, which wasn't very appealing at all. The balance between humans and necromorphs wasn't all too great either, since the necromorphs could see humans through the walls and humans having the ability to stasis them, making it near impossible to get close to them without sneaking up to them, which will cost time to do so, which can cost you dearly in these game modes. Ways to improve this would be to revamp the entirety of the game mode and redesign it from the ground up, take out the ranking system upgrades and offer more cosmetic upgrades for achieving those levels, make the balance better between the two factions, give the players more options than just 4 necromorphs, perhaps add a point system into the game, doing more in the match awards you points, which the necromorph players can use to either twist and warp reality, or to even control higher tier necromorphs such as the Divider or the Leaper, or even an Infector where a quick time event takes place with infecting dead corpses littered all over the map. Make the objectives make more sense within the world, not just stand here and hold a button until the gauge fills. Make it like a little mini game, for instance. Hacking games in Ignition or Extraction could make it more intense and fun for the players rather than just holding a button for 10 seconds, and don't make it so the player gets booted out of the hacking system because he gets hit. This could be like in the last co-op mission of Dead Space 3, your teammates have to watch your back while you open the door. Another idea would be a round-based survival mode or objective-based survival modes that give us more stories within the horror of the Aegis 7. Within the round-based survival mode, you could give players a brief break between rounds to grab ammo or buy new weapons from the store, or even upgrade at the bench. You could even have boss fights with brutes or other enemies from the Dead Space games. Could you imagine having to put down 5 brutes on round 50? The objective survival mode could also tell a story of other survivors, how their actions have impacted the story, perhaps make it like an extinction mode from Call of Duty Ghosts, with the DLC being added to us as episodes like in a TV show. With the interview I had watched, the developers announced that Isaac will be able to speak in this game, so for this comes an interesting opportunity not found in the other Dead Space material. With this being Isaac's first encounter with the necromorphs, you could show off his personality while searching and hailing the Ishimura, only for his personality to slowly fade and decay with the ship throughout the course of the game. Also, don't just make him talk to Kendra or Hammond or any other NPCs, let him give empathy after listening to audio logs, like listening to someone's death for instance. Isaac could be like, poor guy. or talk to Kendra about other survivors, showing that he has empathy towards them or anger towards people like Dr. Mercer, which could be after listening to the audio log in chapter 5, just before grabbing the chemical capsule. Instances like that could be if Isaac has picked up the audio log, his neutral tone will change to one of disgust, adding more depth to the character and encouraging players to explore the ship more thoroughly. Isaac's tone of voice should also reflect the situation. If he is being chased by necromorphs, he should sound like his adrenaline is going through the roof, perhaps even screaming at the sight of these necromorphs for the very first time. Or in more atmospheric and spooky areas, give him a more scared or on edge tone of voice. Or when he sees Nicole, give him a deeply caring and grateful tone of voice, which could be a hint to the player that something just isn't right, without making it obvious. Short point here, but motive. For the love of all that is unholy and disturbing in this franchise, put a skip button in the game and a way to turn off the tutorials. I don't want to watch the same intro cutscene, or any of them, after my 100th playthrough of the game. Same goes for the tutorials. If I have played the game before, I will know how to open doors. With other difficulties being present within the game comes another opportunity for rewards for completing those modes, like new suits or guns that impact gameplay, or perhaps something new entirely. Other game modes like we saw in Dead Space 3 could play a factor here. However, instead of bringing in pure survival, why not make bare bones a difficulty? It would be on the hardest difficulty, and on top of that you can't visit the benches for upgrades or stores for ammunition, stasis, healing items or guns, or other upgrades, and power nodes can only be used to open certain doors. Don't just give us New Game Plus, give us something more that'll have us coming back for more content every day. Play around with it, maybe just give us something just for fun. Sure, it doesn't have to make sense for completing those modes, like a callback to that skateboarding game Isaac was featured in, by giving the player a skateboarding style suit by completing a hard game mode, or maybe even just give us a skateboard for a laugh. Have fun with it, and don't make the rewards of completion become another chore. Games aren't meant to be challenging chores, rather enjoyable experiences to take us out of the norm of our day-to-day lives. However, what do you think on all these things I've spoken to you about? If you agreed with me or like the sound of them, then hit the like button, and comment something you want to be brought into the remake, and I look forward to hearing from you. Subscribe to join the British Alliance today, and ring in the notification bell for updates on future content and streams. If you're feeling up to becoming a champion of the British Alliance, then become a member today, and choose which plans you like the look of the most, and I will see you on the front lines, and have a good one.